In this lesson, we're going to go through a very simple example on how I can load an external file using AJAX. You need to have local or remote web servers set up because otherwise you can't access files from the disk. The reason being security. Basically, if you were able, think of the opposite. If you were able to access local files from a web browser, you could visit a site that might be an evil site, and they could get access to all of your files and information. So that would be a really bad thing to have. That's why you can't do it. So you need a local web server so that the files that we're going to be accessing are located in that same domain. Okay, so what we have here is two containers. If I click on click me, what I want to have is the contents of result.html loaded in this container here and shown. So result.html could be a static file like what I'm doing now, or you could be targeting a PHP file that will retrieve information from the database, or you could be using any kind of any server-side programming language or framework that you want. So I'm using HTML files just because we're not covering any dynamic language, any server-side languages here. So let's get started. If we look at the JavaScript code, all we're doing so far is listening to the click event for the button that has a class switch. We're reusing code from a previous example, as you probably know already. So let's make it so that when I click on this button, I call the server and I grab the contents of result.html, and when I get those contents back successfully, I put those contents in this element that has the ID of result. So what we'll be using is a method called AJAX, and using AJAX with jQuery, that's one of the main advantages of jQuery, besides how easy it is to find elements and how to modify them. Using AJAX on elements is also one of the core elements of jQuery. That's one of the reasons why you would ever want to use it. So what we'll specify here is the name of the file, or the URL alternatively. In this case, if I just specify a file name, it's all relative to where we're at now, to the root of the project. So since result is in the same folder as index, I can just type result. If result was inside another folder, I would have to type the other folder and then slash and then the name of the file, or more subfolders until you reach the file. So all this is doing is retrieving the file. But now what happens when that is successfully completed? Then we could chain a method that's called done. I'm going to put that in a separate line just to keep it more organized. And inside of done we need to call this function. The parameter here will be the response of the server. And once I get that result, what is it that I want to do with it? Well, all I want to do with it is put it inside of result, which is here. So let me grab that, select it using an ID selector, CSS selector, and fill out the contents of this element with the server response. So this is the simplest AJAX example that you can get. This is the basics, the very basics, and it still follows the same approach that I showed you before, where it's still a request to the server and we get a response, but it's just asynchronous. We're not reloading the entire page. So let's see it in action. I'm reloading the page so that we get the code loaded in the browser, and now I click and see that we are getting contents from the server without reloading the page. And we can also check that that's working fine if we go to the network tab in Google Chrome, and this shows all of the things that have been loaded. So the first thing that was loaded was the entire page, right? And then we loaded the style sheet file, the jQuery from the jQuery repository, the script file, and then we got result.html. And you can see the response here. You can see more specific information on the request itself, and also the timing, how long it took. So just to summarize this basic example, all we're doing here is firstly having this set up in a remote or local web server, not just local files. Secondly, we're listening to a click event. When that's triggered, we call our AJAX method, we specify the target content that we want to fetch from the server. This could have a domain name, or it could be just a file that's in your same folder and that's publicly accessible. And when that's done, what we will want to do is show that in the response area.